Maid's toddler sent her sick mom's photo to her billionaire boss by mistake. The billionaire CEO cancel. The rain hammered against the floor-to-ceiling windows of Marcus Ashford's corner office on the 63rd floor of Ashford Tower in Manhattan. At 33, he was one of the youngest billionaires in America, having built his tech empire from a college dorm room into a multinational corporation worth billions. His steel-gray eyes scanned through quarterly reports, his jaw tight with the kind of focus that had made him legendary in the business world. People said Marcus Ashford never smiled, never relaxed, never let his guard down. They were right. His phone buzzed. Marcus glanced at it, expecting another urgent message from his executive team. Instead, he saw a text from an unknown number. No, wait. He recognized it. It was the number he'd given his household staff for emergencies only. His Manhattan penthouse was managed by a small team, and he rarely interacted with them directly. That was what he paid his estate manager for. The message contained a photo. Marcus tapped it, and his screen filled with an image that made him pause mid-breath. It was a woman lying in a hospital bed, her face pale and drawn, tubes connected to her arms, monitors beeping in the background. She looked fragile, terribly ill. But what struck Marcus most was the message that followed, written in the unsteady hand of someone very young. "Mr. Boss Man, please help my mama. Is very sick. The doctors say she needs operation, but we don't have money. Mama is crying. I don't want mama to die. Please help us." Marcus stared at the message, his mind racing. Then came another text, this one clearly from an adult, frantic and mortified. "Mr. Ashford, I am so sorry. This is Elena Rodriguez, your housekeeper. My daughter Lily took my phone. She didn't mean to bother you. Please disregard. I'm handling everything. This won't happen again. I'm so sorry." Marcus sat back in his leather chair, the reports forgotten. Elena Rodriguez. He'd seen her maybe twice in the 6 months she'd worked for him. A quiet, slight woman with kind eyes who always seemed to be working when he left for the office at dawn and still working when he returned late at night. He'd barely registered her existence beyond the fact that his home was always immaculate. But now, looking at that photo, at those desperate words from a 3-year-old child, something shifted in Marcus's chest. Something he hadn't felt in years, not since his own mother had died when he was 12, leaving him and his father to fend for themselves in a cold world that didn't care about their pain. He looked at his watch. 4:30 p.m. He had a board meeting in an hour, dinner with investors at 8, and a conference call with Tokyo at midnight. His day was planned to the minute, as always. Marcus Ashford didn't do spontaneous. He didn't do emotional. He certainly didn't get involved in his employees' personal lives. His finger hovered over the delete button. Then he looked at the photo again, at the woman who scrubbed his floors and folded his laundry while fighting for her life. At the child desperate enough to reach out to a stranger, to a man who probably seemed like a distant king in a tower. Marcus pressed the call button instead. Elena answered on the first ring, her voice shaking. "Mr. Ashford, I'm so sorry. I know this is completely inappropriate. I'll reimburse you for the cost of the text messages. Please, I'm begging you, don't fire me. I need this job. My daughter, she's only 3. She doesn't understand." "Ms. Rodriguez," Marcus interrupted, his voice calm but firm. "Stop apologizing. Tell me about your mother." There was a long silence on the other end. Then, in a voice thick with tears, Elena began to speak. Her mother, Rosa, had raised Elena alone after her father died. Rosa had cleaned houses, worked double shifts, sacrificed everything to give Elena a better life. When Elena became pregnant at 25, her boyfriend had left, but Rosa had been there, helping Elena keep working, keep fighting. 3 weeks ago, Rosa had collapsed. Stage 3 ovarian cancer. The prognosis was good if she received surgery and treatment soon, but Elena's health insurance, through her various cleaning jobs, wouldn't cover the full cost. She was looking at nearly $200,000 in medical bills. Elena had been working 3 jobs, including the one at Marcus's penthouse, sending every penny to the hospital, applying for loans, starting a crowdfunding campaign that had raised barely $3,000. "I'm handling it," Elena said, her voice breaking. "I've been taking extra shifts wherever I can. I'll figure it out. I always do. You don't need to worry about this, Mr. Ashford. I'll make sure Lily never—" "What hospital?" Marcus asked. "Excuse me? What hospital is your mother in, Ms. Rodriguez?" Elena hesitated, then named a public hospital in Queens. Marcus was already pulling up his contacts, scrolling to his personal physician, Dr. Sarah Chen, one of the best oncologists in the country. "I'm going to make a few calls," Marcus said. "Don't make any decisions about your mother's treatment until you hear from me." "That's not a request, Ms. Rodriguez. That's an instruction. Mr. Ashford, I can't possibly accept." "You're not accepting anything yet. I'm making calls. That's all." He paused. "Is your daughter with you right now?" "Yes, she's Lily, honey. Give Mama the phone. I'm sorry. She's trying to grab the phone again." Despite himself, Marcus felt the corner of his mouth twitch. "Put her on."
"What?"
"Sir, I don't think. Ms. Rodriguez, put your daughter on the phone." There was rustling, whispered instructions, and then a small, trembling voice. "Hello, Mr. Bossman?" Marcus's throat tightened unexpectedly. "Hello, Lily. My name is Marcus. I got your message about your grandma." "Abuela is very sick," Lily said, her voice wobbling. "Mama cries at night. I hear her. I'm scared, Mr. Marcus Bossman. I don't want Abuela to go to heaven, like Mama says." Marcus closed his eyes. When was the last time anyone had been this honest with him? In his world, everyone had an angle, a strategy, a carefully calculated approach to every interaction. This child was just real. Terrified and real. "Lily, I'm going to help your grandma get better," Marcus heard himself say. "That's a promise. Can you be brave for your mama while I work on this?" "You can really help? You're very rich, right? Mama says you have so much money, you could buy 1,000,000 toys." "Something like that," Marcus said, and for the first time in years, he almost smiled. "I need you to do something for me, Lily. I need you to give your mama a hug and tell her everything is going to be okay."
"Can you do that?"
"Okay, Mr. Marcus Bossman. Thank you." The phone rustled again, and Elena came back on, crying openly now. "Mr. Ashford, I don't know what to say. I can't." "You can and you will," Marcus said quietly. "Expect a call from Dr. Chen within the hour. She'll arrange everything." "And Ms. Rodriguez? Tomorrow morning, I want you to take the day off. Spend it with your mother and daughter. That's an order." He hung up before she could protest further, then sat in his silent office, rain still streaming down the windows. Marcus looked at his wall of achievements, magazine covers proclaiming him a genius, awards for innovation, framed photos of him shaking hands with presidents and tech titans. None of it had ever made him feel what he felt right now. Useful. Needed.
Human.
Marcus pulled up Dr. Chen's number and began making calls. The board meeting could wait. Tokyo could wait. For the first time in his carefully controlled life, something mattered more than the next deal, the next billion, the next conquest. A 3-year-old girl had reminded him what his money was actually for. Marcus stood outside the public hospital in Queens the next morning, feeling distinctly out of place in his $3,000 suit. His driver had looked confused when Marcus had given him this address instead of heading to the office, and his executive assistant had called 3 times, bewildered by his sudden schedule changes. Marcus had ignored her. Dr. Chen had worked miracles overnight. Rosa Rodriguez was being transferred today to Mount Sinai, where the best oncological team in New York was already preparing for her surgery. The bills would be handled. Everything would be handled. That was what Marcus did. He solved problems with resources and connections. But he'd found himself unable to simply make the arrangements and move on. Something had pulled him here, to this place, to see the woman in that photo and the child who'd sent it. He found Elena in the waiting area, Lily curled up asleep in her lap. Elena looked exhausted, her dark hair pulled back in a messy ponytail, her jeans and sweater worn and simple. When she saw Marcus approach, her eyes widened and she tried to stand, but Marcus held up a hand. "Please don't wake her," he said quietly, sitting in the plastic chair beside them. Elena stared at him as if he were an apparition. "Mr. Ashford, I don't understand. Why are you here? Dr. Chen called last night. She said my mother is being moved, that everything is arranged. I tried to call you, but I didn't know how to reach you, and I didn't know if I should." "You should have," Marcus said. He looked at Lily, sleeping peacefully against her mother's shoulder, her small hand clutching a worn stuffed rabbit. "How is your mother doing?" Elena's eyes filled with tears. "They said the transfer is happening in an hour." Dr. Chun explained the surgery, the treatment plan. She said my mother has an excellent chance of full recovery." Her voice broke. "Mr. Ashford, what you've done, I have no words. I can never repay you. Never." "I don't want repayment," Marcus said, surprising himself with the firmness of his tone. He wasn't sure why he'd come, what he'd expected to find here. "I wanted to meet Rosa. If that's appropriate." Elena blinked. "You want to meet my mother? The woman who raised someone with the character to work 3 jobs for her family?" "Yes, I'd like to meet her." Something shifted in Elena's face, suspicion melting into tentative trust. She nodded slowly. "She's awake. She'd be honored. But Mr. Ashford, she doesn't know. I mean, I told her someone was helping, but I didn't say who or how much. She's proud. She'll want to thank you, to promise to pay you back, even though—" "Then we'll let her," Marcus said simply. "People need their dignity, Ms. Rodriguez. We'll set up a payment plan if it makes her feel better. $1 a month for the next 1,000,000 months if necessary." Elena's laugh was watery, but genuine. "You're not what I expected." "What did you expect?" "I don't know. Someone colder, I guess. Harder. You never speak to us when you're at the apartment." "I always thought." She trailed off, embarrassed. "You thought I didn't see you," Marcus finished quietly. "You were right. I didn't. I saw the work being done but not the people doing it. That was wrong of me." Before Elena could respond, Lily stirred, her eyes fluttering open. She looked up at Marcus, and her face transformed with wonder. "Mr. Marcus, boss man. You came. Are you magic?" Marcus felt something crack open in his chest.
"No, Lily.
"I'm just a person who wanted to help." "Mama said you're helping Abuela. Can I give you a hug?" "Mama says when someone is nice, we say thank you and give hugs." Marcus froze. He couldn't remember the last time someone had hugged him, really hugged him, not the perfunctory embraces of business associates or the calculated affection of women who wanted something from him. He looked at Elena, who seemed mortified. "Lily's sweetheart, Mr. Ashford is very busy." "I'd like that," Marcus interrupted. "I'd like that very much." Lily scrambled off her mother's lap and wrapped her small arms around Marcus's neck with the unself-conscious affection only a child could give. She smelled like baby shampoo and strawberries. Marcus awkwardly patted her back, feeling ridiculously out of his depth. "You're my favorite boss man," Lily whispered seriously. "Better than all the other boss mans." "I'm the only boss man you know," Marcus said, but his voice was rough. "Still my favorite," Lily insisted, pulling back to pat his cheek with her tiny hand. "You have kind eyes. Sad but kind." Marcus looked at Elena, startled. Elena was watching him with an expression he couldn't quite read, something between gratitude and curiosity and a deep, aching sadness. "She's very perceptive," Elena said softly. "Always has been." A nurse appeared, clipboard in hand. "Ms. Rodriguez? We're ready to prep your mother for transfer." Elena stood, Lily on her hip. Would you like to meet her now, Mr. Ashford? Or would you prefer to wait until—" "Now," Marcus said, standing. If she's up for it. They walked through the sterile corridors, Lily chattering happily about her stuffed rabbit's adventures, seemingly unaware of the gravity of the situation. Marcus found himself listening, actually listening, to her rambling story about how Mr. Bunny had defeated a dragon made of broccoli. Rosa Rodriguez's room was small and crowded with equipment. She lay in the bed, her face pale but her eyes sharp and alert as they entered. When she saw Marcus, those eyes widened. "Mama, this is Mr. Ashford," Elena said gently in English, then repeated it in Spanish. Rosa tried to sit up straighter, and Marcus moved forward instinctively to help adjust her pillows. She stared at him, then spoke rapidly in Spanish. Elena translated, her voice thick with emotion. "She says she knows who you are. She's seen you in magazines at the supermarket checkout. She says she doesn't understand why a man like you would help people like us, but she swears on her life and her soul that she will repay you, even if it takes the rest of her days on this earth." Marcus pulled up a chair beside the bed. "Mrs. Rodriguez, may I tell you something? When I was 12 years old, my mother died of cancer. We couldn't afford good treatment. My father worked 3 jobs, just like your daughter, but it wasn't enough. I watched my mother die in pain, knowing that somewhere, in some hospital with better equipment and better doctors, she might have lived." He paused, his throat tight. "I swore then that if I ever had the power to stop someone else from feeling that helplessness, I would. Your granddaughter gave me that chance." Rosa's eyes filled with tears. She reached out and took Marcus's hand with surprising strength, speaking again in Spanish. She says, Elena translated, her own voice breaking, that God sent her the angel she prayed for, but she never expected the angel to come in a suit. Marcus laughed, actually laughed, and felt the sound surprise him. "I'm no angel, Mrs. Rodriguez. I'm just someone with resources who should use them better." Rosa said something else, and Elena hesitated before translating. She says you have the eyes of someone who understands loss. She says loss either makes us hard or makes us human. She's glad to see which kind you are. Abuela. Lily climbed onto the bed carefully, snuggling against her grandmother. "Mr. Marcus, boss man, is fixing you." Rosa kissed her granddaughter's head and looked at Marcus with such fierce gratitude that he had to look away. He wasn't used to this, to genuine emotion, to connection, to feeling like he'd done something that actually mattered. "The transfer team is here," a nurse announced. Marcus stood. "Mrs. Rodriguez, you're in the best hands in the city now. Dr. Chin will explain everything, but I want you to know, don't worry about anything except getting better. Not the bills, not the treatment, not anything. Just focus on healing so this little one," he gestured to Lily, "has her abuela for a long, long time." Rosa spoke once more, and Elena translated through tears. She says, "May God bless you with the same love you've shown us." As Marcus left the hospital, walking past the bustling emergency room and out into the cold November air, he felt different, lighter, as if something that had been frozen inside him for 21 years was finally beginning to thaw. His phone was buzzing with increasingly urgent messages. Board meeting postponed. Investors confused. Tokyo frustrated. His carefully ordered world was in chaos because he'd spent a morning in Queens with a housekeeper and her family. And Marcus Ashford, Billionaire CEO, couldn't bring himself to care. 3 weeks passed. Rosa's surgery was successful. The cancer had been caught early enough that with surgery and follow-up treatment, her prognosis was excellent. Marcus received updates from Dr. Chen and found himself actually reading them carefully, feeling a strange sense of investment in this woman's recovery. He also noticed that his penthouse felt different. When he told Elena to take time off to be with her mother during recovery, she'd arranged for temporary staff to cover her shifts. They did adequate work, but something was missing. The apartment felt like a showpiece again, clean but cold, perfect but empty. He found himself looking forward to Elena's return, though he wasn't sure why. He told himself it was simply about consistency and quality of service. Marcus Ashford was good at lying to others. He was less good at lying to himself. On a Friday evening in early December, Marcus came home earlier than usual, 7 p.m. instead of his typical midnight, and found Elena in his kitchen. She was standing at the sink, and from the doorway, he could see that she was crying silently, her shoulders shaking. "Ms. Rodriguez," he said quietly. Elena spun around, hastily wiping her eyes. "Mr. Ashford, I'm sorry, I didn't expect you home. I'll just finish." "Why are you crying?" The question came out more bluntly than he'd intended. Elena's face crumpled. She tried to compose herself, but the stress of the past month seemed to overwhelm her all at once. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I was reading Lily's Christmas list. She wants so many things, normal 3-year-old things, and I've been so focused on my mother's medical bills, on keeping up with work, that I realized I have exactly $63 in my bank account, and Christmas is in 3 weeks, and I can't give my baby the kind of Christmas she deserves." She stopped, horrified at herself. "God, I'm so sorry. You don't need to hear this. You've already done so much. I'm just tired and overwhelmed, and—" "Where is Lily now?" Marcus asked. "With my mother. They're both staying at my apartment. My mother is recovering well, but she still needs care, and daycare is so expensive, so she watches Lily during the day while I work and—" Elena pressed her hands to her face. "I'm sorry. I'm a mess. I'll pull myself together." Marcus surprised them both by pulling out one of the kitchen bar stools. "Sit down, Ms. Rodriguez. Please." Elena sat, looking miserable and embarrassed. Marcus sat beside her, feeling awkward but determined. "I need to tell you something," he said slowly. "Since your daughter sent me that text, I've been thinking a lot about my own childhood. After my mother died, my father and I had nothing. He worked himself to exhaustion, but we were always behind on bills, always struggling. That Christmas, the first one without my mother, I wanted a basic calculator for my math homework. Just a simple calculator. My father found one at a thrift store, but it was broken. He stayed up all night on Christmas Eve, taking it apart, fixing it with parts from other broken things." Marcus's voice went rough. "That was the last Christmas we celebrated. The next year, I told him I didn't want anything. I didn't want to see him hurt himself trying to give me things we couldn't afford." Elena was staring at him, tears streaming down her face. "Mr. Ashford." "Marcus," he corrected. "And I'm telling you this because I understand what you're feeling. But Elena," he used her first name without thinking, "your daughter won't remember the toys she does or doesn't get. She'll remember that her mother fought for her grandmother, that she was loved, that she was safe. That's what matters." "I know," Elena whispered. "I do know that. But I still want to give her magic. I want her to believe in Christmas miracles and Santa Claus and the goodness of the world. Is that foolish?" "No," Marcus said quietly. "It's not foolish at all. It's beautiful." They sat in silence for a moment, the city lights twinkling through the massive windows. Finally, Elena spoke. "Can I ask you something? Why did you really come to the hospital that day? And why do you keep asking Dr. Chen about my mother's progress?" Marcus considered lying deflecting. Instead, he found himself telling the truth. "Because I spent 21 years building an empire, but not a life. I have everything money can buy, and nothing that actually matters. When your daughter sent me that message, it was the first time in years that someone needed me, really needed me, not my money or my connections, but me. It felt like waking up after a very long sleep." Elena reached over and, very hesitantly, placed her hand over his on the counter. Her hand was small and work-worn, and Marcus stared at it as if it were something precious and fragile. "You're not what I expected," she said softly, echoing her words from the hospital. "Neither are you," Marcus replied. "I expected someone who would take advantage, who would ask for more. Instead, You've tried repeatedly to pay me back for something that costs me nothing but means everything to you. It doesn't cost you nothing, Elena protested. Nearly $200,000 is. Elena, I made more than that in the time we've been sitting here talking. That's not a boast. It's just the truth. Money means nothing if you can't use it for something that matters. Elena pulled her hand back, but gently. I should go. My mother will be worried, and Lily. Bring them for Christmas, Marcus said suddenly. The words surprised him as much as they surprised Elena.
Here.
Christmas Eve.
I'll
arrange everything. Your mother is still recovering. She shouldn't be stressed. Lily should have her Christmas magic. And I. He trailed off, not sure how to finish. And you. Elena prompted gently. And I'd like to not spend another Christmas alone in this place, surrounded by expensive things that don't feel like anything, Marcus admitted. But only if you want to. I'm not good at this. At connection. At anything that isn't work. I might be terrible company. Elena's smile was like sunrise. We'd love to come. Lily will be thrilled. She talks about you constantly. Mr. Marcus Boss Man says I'm brave. Mr. Marcus Boss Man has sad eyes but a good heart. You've made quite an impression. She made quite an impression on me, Marcus said. She sees things very clearly, your daughter. She does, Elena agreed. Sometimes I think she sees things the rest of us are too busy or too scared to see. After Elena left, Marcus sat alone in his kitchen, feeling the silence differently than before. It wasn't peaceful. It was empty. But in 3 weeks, for one night at least, it wouldn't be. Marcus pulled out his phone and began making calls. If he was going to do Christmas, he was going to do it right. Not with money. Well, not just with money, but with care. With thought. With the kind of magic a 3-year-old girl deserved. He was Marcus Ashford. He built empires. Surely he could build one perfect Christmas. Christmas Eve arrived with snow falling gently over Manhattan, transforming the city into something from a storybook. Marcus had spent the past 3 weeks in a whirlwind of uncharacteristic activity. He'd consulted with his assistant, who'd looked at him as if he'd lost his mind, about appropriate gifts for a 3-year-old. He'd hired decorators, but then dismissed them when he realized their vision was too cold, too perfect. Instead, he'd spent his evenings after work decorating himself, hanging lights with surprisingly unsteady hands, setting up a Christmas tree that he'd had to watch 3 YouTube videos to figure out. His board members had noticed his distraction. His focus had shifted. For the first time in his career, Marcus was leaving the office at 6 p.m., declining evening meetings, protecting his time. They'd held an intervention of sorts, expressing concern about his recent behavior. Marcus had looked at them. These men who worked 80-hour weeks, who'd sacrificed marriages and relationships and children's childhoods for another percentage point of profit, and felt nothing but pity. Gentlemen, he'd said quietly, I'm learning to live. I suggest you do the same. Now, as 7 p.m. approached, the time he'd asked Elena to arrive, Marcus stood in his transformed penthouse and felt genuinely nervous. The tree was lit with warm white lights, presents wrapped underneath. He'd set up a hot chocolate station because his research suggested children liked hot chocolate. The fireplace was crackling. Christmas music played softly from invisible speakers. It looked warm. It looked like a home. It looked like the kind of place where memories were made instead of money.
The doorbell rang.
Marcus's heart jumped in a way that had nothing to do with business negotiations. He opened the door. Lily was wearing a red velvet dress, her dark hair tied with ribbons. When she saw Marcus, she squealed and launched herself at him. Marcus caught her, and she wrapped her arms around his neck. Mr. Marcus, boss man, you have a Christmas tree. And lights. And is that hot chocolate? Mama, look. It's like Santa's house. Elena stood in the doorway with her mother, both women looking stunned. The penthouse they cleaned regularly had been transformed. Rosa, wearing a beautiful dress and looking healthy, her hair growing back from chemo, had tears in her eyes. "Welcome," Marcus said, suddenly feeling awkward with Lily in his arms. "Please come in." They entered slowly, taking in the transformation. Marcus had arranged for a catered dinner, nothing too fancy, but traditional comfort food he remembered from his own childhood Christmases. Turkey, stuffing, mashed potatoes, green beans. Food that felt like home. "Marcus," Elena whispered, using his first name naturally now. They'd spoken several times over the past weeks, short conversations when she was at the penthouse, longer ones when he'd find excuses to call with questions about her mother's recovery. This is too much." "It's not enough," Marcus replied. "It's not nearly enough." Dinner was a revelation. Marcus couldn't remember the last time he'd shared a meal like this, full of laughter and conversation, Lily's chatter filling the spaces, Rose's gentle teasing of her daughter, Elena's bright laughter at Marcus's awkward jokes. He felt rusty at this, at being human, at being part of something warm and real. After dinner, they moved to the living room. Lily's eyes were glued to the presents under the tree. "Those can't all be for me," she whispered, awed. "Well," Marcus said, kneeling down to her level, "some are for your mama, and some are for your abuela. But yes, quite a few are for you. If that's okay?" Lily looked at her mother, uncertainty crossing her small face. Elena's eyes were swimming with tears, but she nodded. "It's okay, baby. Mr. Marcus wanted to give you a special Christmas." What followed was perhaps the best hour of Marcus's adult life. Lily opened presents with a kind of pure, unfiltered joy that he'd forgotten existed. Books and art supplies and the dollhouse she'd mentioned once in passing. Each gift had been carefully chosen, researched, thought about. Marcus had spent more time selecting these presents than he'd spent on multi-million-dollar business decisions. But the best moment came when Lily opened a particular box, a stuffed rabbit, identical to her worn and tattered Mr. Bunny, but new and clean and soft. Lily looked at the new rabbit, then at Marcus, her eyes wide. "For Mr. Bunny?" "I thought Mr. Bunny might like a friend," Marcus explained. "Someone to share his adventures with. What do you think?" Lily carefully set down the new rabbit and ran to Marcus, climbing into his lap and hugging him tightly. "Thank you," she whispered, "but I like old Mr. Bunny best. Because he's been with me for all the hard stuff. The new one can be his brother." Marcus felt his throat close. This child understood loyalty, understood value in a way most adults had forgotten. He hugged her back, this small person who'd somehow broken through walls he'd spent decades building. "That sounds perfect," he managed to say. Elena opened her presents next, practical things, because Marcus had learned she wouldn't accept anything too extravagant, but meaningful ones. A professional coffee maker because he'd noticed she was always tired. A gift certificate to a spa because she needed rest. Books she'd mentioned loving. And, in a moment of impulse, a framed photo of the four of them from earlier that evening. Marcus had arranged for a photographer to capture the moment they'd arrived, the joy on Lily's face, the wonder on everyone's faces. They looked like a family. Rose's gifts were similar, thoughtful, personal, chosen with care. A shawl in her favorite color. Books in Spanish. A donation made in her name to a cancer research foundation. When Rosa opened that last one and understood what it meant, she stood and walked to Marcus. She cupped his face in her hands and spoke in Spanish, her voice fierce and loving. Elena translated, her voice shaking. "She says you're the son she never had. She says your mother is watching from heaven and is proud. She says." Elena broke off, crying, and Rosa finished in careful English. "She says you are family now. If you want to be." Marcus, who commanded boardrooms and negotiated billion-dollar deals without breaking a sweat, found he couldn't speak. He just nodded and let Rosa hug him. Later, as Lily dozed on the couch, exhausted from excitement, Marcus and Elena stood by the windows, watching the snow fall over the city. "Thank you," Elena said softly. "Not just for tonight, or for my mother's treatment, but for seeing us. For letting us see you." "I should be thanking you," Marcus replied. "3 weeks ago, I was going through the motions of a life that looked successful but felt empty. Your daughter reminded me what actually matters." "What matters?" Elena asked. Marcus looked at her, really looked at her, at the kindness in her face, the strength in her bearing, the love in her eyes when she looked at her sleeping daughter and recovering mother. "Connection," he said quietly. "Purpose. Being part of something bigger than yourself. I've spent 21 years building an empire because I thought success would fill the hole my mother's death left. It didn't. Nothing did. Until a 3-year-old accidentally texted me and reminded me what it feels like to be needed for the right reasons." Elena reached out and took his hand. The gesture was becoming familiar now, comfortable. "You know what Lily said to me yesterday?" She said, "Mama, I think Mr. Marcus Bossman is lonely. Can he be part of our family?" I told her that wasn't how it worked, that you were very busy and important. She said, "But everybody needs a family, Mama. Even Bossmans." Marcus laughed, but his eyes were wet. "She's not wrong." "No," Elena said softly. "She's not." She paused, seemed to gather courage. "Marcus, would you want to have lunch with us sometimes? Or dinner? Not here, not in your space. In our space. Our little apartment in Queens where nothing is fancy or impressive, but everything is real.
Would you want that?"
Marcus looked at her, at this woman who cleaned his floors and somehow saw through to his soul. At her mother, dozing in the armchair, cancer-free and healing. At Lily, sleeping peacefully with both rabbits clutched to her chest. "Yes," he said simply. "I'd want that more than anything." As the snow continued to fall and Christmas Eve turned into Christmas Day, Marcus Ashford felt something he hadn't felt since he was 12 years old. Hope. Not the hope of making another billion or closing another deal, but the hope of mattering to someone, of being part of something real. A little girl had sent a message by accident. And in doing so, she'd saved not just her grandmother, but also a man who'd forgotten how to be saved. The months following that Christmas were unlike anything Marcus had experienced in his adult life. He found himself spending Sundays in Queens, in Elena's modest 2-bedroom apartment, eating Rose's homemade empanadas and playing endless games of pretend with Lily, who insisted he was the dragon and she was the knight who had to rescue him. "Why do I need rescuing?" Marcus had asked the first time. Lily had looked at him with her unnervingly perceptive eyes. "Because you have sad eyes. Knights rescue sad-eyed dragons. That's how it works." Marcus had looked at Elena, who'd shrugged with a small smile. "She's not wrong," she'd said. His life began to change in ways both subtle and profound. He still went to the office, still ran his company, but he started delegating more, trusting his team, leaving at reasonable hours. His board initially resisted, then saw something surprising. The company was thriving under his new approach. Marcus was more focused, more innovative, more decisive. Having a life outside of work made him better at work, not worse. He started a foundation focused on medical debt relief, inspired by Rose's experience. He set up scholarships for children of single mothers. He visited hospitals, not for photo opportunities, but to genuinely understand how he could help. His PR team was baffled by his refusal to publicize these efforts. "It's not about the image," Marcus told them. "It's about actually making a difference." But the most significant change was personal. Marcus found himself falling, slowly, terrifyingly wonderfully for Elena. It wasn't the sudden, dramatic attraction of romantic movies. It was something deeper, built on shared meals and late-night conversations and watching her be an incredible mother and devoted daughter. He noticed everything about her. How she hummed while cooking, how she always made sure everyone else ate before taking her own portion, how she read to Lily every night with different voices for different characters. He noticed her strength, her resilience, her capacity for joy despite hardship. He noticed how she made his massive, expensive penthouse feel like a home simply by being in it. But Marcus also noticed the walls she maintained. Elena was grateful, friendly, warm, but carefully distant. She never asked him for anything, never presumed on their friendship, never indicated that she saw him as anything more than a benefactor who'd become a friend. Rosa noticed. During one Sunday dinner, after Lily had dragged Marcus off to her room to show him her newest drawings, Rosa spoke to Elena in rapid Spanish. Elena responded quietly, and their conversation became heated. Marcus appeared in the doorway with Lily on his shoulders, and both women immediately went silent. But later, as he was leaving, Rosa caught his arm. "Mijo," she said gently, "my son." She'd started calling him that, and it made his chest ache every time. "My daughter is proud. She won't burden you with her feelings. She thinks she owes you too much already." Marcus's heart stopped. "What feelings?" Rosa smiled knowingly. "The same feelings I see in your eyes when you look at her. The same feelings that make you come here every Sunday, that make you call to ask how Lily's day was, that make you light up like a Christmas tree when Elena walks into a room." She patted his cheek. "Don't wait too long, Marcus. Life is short. Trust me, I know this now." March brought Lily's 4th birthday. Marcus had asked Elena weeks in advance what Lily wanted, and Elena had hesitated before admitting, "She wants you to come to her party. That's literally the only thing she's asked for. Can Mr. Marcus Boss Man come to my birthday?" The party was in a community center in Queens, filled with children from Lily's preschool and their families. Marcus arrived with presents he'd carefully selected and found himself in a room of people who looked at him curiously. This man in jeans and a sweater, who clearly didn't belong to their world, but whom Lily greeted with shrieks of joy. "You came. You really came. Mama said you might be too busy with boss man stuff, but you came." Marcus knelt down. "I wouldn't miss your birthday for anything, Lily. Not for anything in the world." He spent the afternoon playing party games, suffering through several rounds of pin the tail on the donkey, and eating cake with children who had no idea he was a billionaire and wouldn't have cared if they'd known. One of the mothers approached him cautiously. "You're Lily's friend, right? The one she talks about all the time?" "I hope so," Marcus said. "She says you're magic," the woman continued. "She says you saved her abuela and helped her mama stop crying at night. Are you, and Elena?" "No," Marcus said quickly, perhaps too quickly. "We're friends. She works for me and we became friends." The woman looked at him thoughtfully. "Well, friend, you should know that woman lights up like Times Square when she talks about you. Just saying." As the party wound down and parents collected their exhausted, sugar-high children, Marcus helped Elena and Rosa clean up. Lily was asleep in Rosa's arms, worn out from excitement. "Let me drive you home," Marcus said. "You shouldn't take the subway with all these presents and a sleeping child." In the car, with Rosa and Lily dozing in the back seat, Elena was quiet. Finally, she spoke. "Thank you for coming today. It meant the world to her. To all of us." "Elena," Marcus began, then paused. What did he want to say? That he thought about her constantly? That his Sundays in Queens were the best part of his week? That he'd started imagining a future that looked nothing like his carefully planned past? "Elena, I want to talk to you about something. About us." Elena went very still. "Marcus, please don't. I know what you're going to say, and I can't do that." "Can't do what?" Marcus's heart was racing. "I can't be the poor maid who falls for her billionaire employer. I can't be that cliché. More than that, I can't be in a relationship where I'll always owe you, always be grateful, always be unequal. You saved my mother's life, Marcus. You've given my daughter joy and security. How could anything between us ever be equal?" Marcus pulled the car over on a quiet street. He turned to face her. Do you think I did all this to make you feel indebted to me? Do you think I spend every Sunday in Queens out of charity? Elena, you've given me something I thought I'd lost forever, a reason to be human instead of just successful. You've shown me what life actually looks like instead of what it costs. If anyone owes anything, I owe you. That's not how relationships work, Elena said, but her voice was shaking. Then let me ask you something, Marcus said quietly. Forget the circumstances of how we met. Forget that I have money and you needed help. If we'd met differently, at a coffee shop, or in a park, or anywhere else, would you consider giving us a chance? Elena looked at him with tears streaming down her face. Yes, she whispered. God help me, yes. I think about you all the time. I look forward to seeing you in ways that terrify me. When you play with Lily, when you listen to my mother's stories, when you're just you, not the CEO, but the man underneath, I feel things I haven't felt since Lily's father left. Things I didn't think I'd feel again. Then why can't we try? Marcus asked. Because what happens when it ends? Elena's voice cracked. When you realize that my world is too small, too ordinary. When the novelty wears off and you go back to your real life. I'll survive heartbreak. But Lily? She's already so attached to you. And my mother loves you like a son. When this ends. What if it doesn't end? Marcus interrupted. What if this is the real life, and everything before was the pretend one? Elena, I've made billions of dollars. I've built an empire. I've accomplished everything I set out to do. And none of it, has made me as happy as eating empanadas in your mother's kitchen or playing dragon with your daughter. You think your world is small? Your world has everything mine was missing. He reached out and took her hand. I'm not asking you to be the maid who falls for her boss. I'm asking you to be Elena, and let me be Marcus. Two people who found each other in an unlikely way and are brave enough to see what happens next. No debts. No obligations. Just possibility. Elena closed her eyes, tears still falling. I'm scared. So am I, Marcus admitted. I haven't let myself care about anyone in 21 years. You terrify me. Lily terrifies me. The idea of losing this, losing you, terrifies me. But you know what terrifies me more? Watching you from a distance for the rest of my life, pretending to be just friends when I want so much more. From the back seat, Rosa's voice emerged in English. Mija, let yourself be happy. This man is good. His heart is good. Sometimes God sends us miracles in strange packages. Don't send this one away. You're supposed to be asleep, Elena said, laughing and crying at the same time. I'm a mother. We're never really asleep. Rosa paused. Also, I've been waiting for this conversation for months. Took you long enough. Marcus looked at Elena. What do you say? Can we try? Slowly, at whatever pace feels right. I'm not going anywhere, Elena. Whether you say yes tonight or need time to think or need me to prove that this is real, I'm not going anywhere. Elena looked at their joined hands, then at her sleeping daughter, then at her mother's encouraging smile, and finally back at Marcus. Okay, she whispered.
Okay.
Let's try. Slowly. Slowly, Marcus agreed, and the smile that broke across his face was something his board members wouldn't have recognized, completely unguarded, purely joyful. As they drove the rest of the way to Queens, Elena's hand still in his, Marcus thought about how far he'd come from that rainy day when a desperate text had changed everything. He'd thought he was rescuing someone. It turned out he was the one being rescued all along. Section 6. The Real Miracle. 6 months later, Marcus stood in the same community center where Lily's birthday party had been held, but this time it was transformed for a different celebration. Fairy lights hung from the ceiling, and flowers, Elena's favorites, pink peonies, decorated every surface. His board members were there, looking confused but game. Rosa was there, healthy and radiant. Lily was there in a white dress, clutching both of her rabbits and bouncing with excitement. And Elena was there, walking toward him in a simple dress the color of champagne, and Marcus forgot how to breathe. The past 6 months had been the best and hardest of his life. They'd taken it slowly, as promised. Dates in little restaurants where no one knew him. Movie nights with Lily falling asleep between them. Long conversations about fears and dreams and past hurts. Elena had set boundaries, and Marcus had respected them. They'd argued about money, about her insistence on still working, about his tendency to solve problems with his checkbook instead of his presence. "I don't need you to fix everything," she'd said once, frustrated. "I just need you to be here." It had been a revelation. Marcus was good at fixing things. He was less good at simply being present. Elena was teaching him the difference. Lily had been their compass. "Are you and Mama going to get married?" she'd asked bluntly one Sunday. "Because I think you should. Then you could live with us and play dragon every day." "Would you like that?" Marcus had asked carefully. "Duh," Lily had said, with the magnificent confidence of a 4-year-old. "You're part of our family already. You should make it official." It was Lily's simple logic that had finally pushed Marcus to buy a ring. Not a showpiece designed to impress, but a simple band with Elena's birthstone, personal and meaningful. He'd proposed in Rosa's kitchen, over empanadas, with flour on Elena's nose and Lily trying to climb into his lap. "I love you," he'd said simply. "I love your strength and your kindness and the way you make me want to be better. I love how you put everyone else first, but won't let me steamroll you with money or solutions. I love your daughter and your mother and the life you've built.
I want to be part of that life.
Not to change it or fix it or make it bigger, but just to be in it. Will you marry me?" Elena had cried and said yes, and Lily had cheered, and Rosa had hugged them both and whispered, "Finally." Now, standing in that community center with their friends and family, his business associates, mixing with Elena's community, two worlds colliding in the best possible way, Marcus listened to Elena say her vows. "When Lily sent you that text," Elena said, her voice strong and clear, "I thought it was the most embarrassing mistake of my life. I never imagined it would lead us here. You saw us when we felt invisible. You helped us when we had no right to ask. But more than that, you let us help you too. You let us into your heart, your life, your carefully guarded world. You proved that love isn't about grand gestures or fairy tales. It's about showing up, day after day, choosing to be present and real and vulnerable. I promise to love you not for what you can give us, but for who you are. I promise to call you out when you're being a stubborn CEO instead of a human being. And I promise that you'll always, always have a family who sees you, knows you, and loves you exactly as you are." Marcus's own vows were shorter. "I spent 21 years building walls and calling it success. You tore them down with kindness and patience, and a 4-year-old with exceptional aim when sending text messages." Laughter rippled through the crowd. "You taught me that the best things in life can't be bought or negotiated or controlled. They have to be earned with presence, with vulnerability, with the courage to let people matter. You matter, Elena. You and Lily and Rosa. You matter more than every dollar I'll ever make, every deal I'll ever close, every achievement on my wall. I promise to spend the rest of my life proving that to you. I promise to be present, to be real, to be the man Lily thinks I am and the man you see in me even when I can't see it myself. I promise to love your family as my own, because they are my own now. And I promise that every Sunday, for the rest of our lives, I'll be there for empanadas and whatever adventures Lily has planned. Because that's where home is. Where you are." There wasn't a dry eye in the room. When they were pronounced married, Lily cheered so loudly that everyone laughed, and Marcus kissed his bride while his heart felt like it might burst. The reception was unlike any event his world had ever seen. No ice sculptures or 5-course meals. Instead, Rosa's friends had cooked a feast of traditional dishes. Children ran around playing tag. His CFO was learning to salsa dance from one of Elena's aunts. His famously serious legal counsel was on the floor playing blocks with Lily and several other children. Marcus found himself standing with Elena by the window, watching it all. "This is perfect," he said quietly. "Even without the champagne fountain your assistant suggested?" Elena teased. "Especially without the champagne fountain." Marcus pulled her close. "Do you know what the best part of today is?"
What?
"It's not the end of the story. It's the beginning. We get to wake up together tomorrow, and the next day, and the next. We get to build something real." "Speaking of building something real," Elena said, pulling back to look at him with a nervous smile, "I should probably tell you that in about 7 months, we're going to need to make room in your penthouse for a crib." Marcus stared at her. "You're where?" "Pregnant," Elena finished. "Surprise?" Marcus let out a sound that was half laugh, half sob. He picked Elena up and spun her around, not caring who was watching. "We're having a baby?" "We are," Elena confirmed, laughing. "I wanted to tell you privately, but I couldn't keep it in anymore. Are you happy?" Marcus set her down and cupped her face in his hands. Happy doesn't begin to cover it. Terrified, yes. Overwhelmed, absolutely. But happy? "Elena, I'm so happy I don't have words for it." Lily appeared, tugging on Marcus's jacket. "Why are you crying, Marcus? It's a happy day." Marcus knelt down. "They're happy tears, sweetheart. The best kind. Can I tell you a secret?" "Yes." Lily bounced excitedly. "You're going to be a big sister." Lily's eyes went wide. "Really? I can teach the baby about dragons and knights? And how Mr. Bunny defeated the broccoli monster." "All of that," Marcus confirmed. "Best day ever," Lily announced, then ran off to tell everyone within earshot. As the party continued around them, Marcus pulled Elena back into his arms. "You know what I realized today?" "What's that?" "A year ago, I would have said that the luckiest day of my life was when I made my first billion. Or when my company went public. Or any of a dozen business achievements I thought defined me. But the real luckiest day? It was the day a scared little girl grabbed her mother's phone and accidentally sent a message to her boss man. That was the day my real life started." Elena rested her head against his chest. "I spent so long thinking we were the lucky ones, that you saved us. But you're right. We saved each other. Lily saved both of us, really. She saw something the rest of us were too scared or proud or busy to see." "What's that?" "That everyone needs family. Even billionaire boss mans." As the sun set over Queens, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold, Marcus Ashford stood surrounded by his wife, his daughter-to-be, his soon-to-be-born child, and his mother-in-law who'd adopted him as her son. He was surrounded by friends and laughter and love and life. All the things that actually mattered, all the things he'd spent years ignoring in pursuit of meaningless success. The accidental text message, the desperate plea from a 3-year-old, had led to this. Had led to everything. Marcus had built an empire, but this messy, imperfect, beautiful family, this was his true legacy. This was what would matter when everything else faded. Rosa appeared beside them, healthy and vibrant, her cancer just a memory. "My children," she said in English, looking at Marcus and Elena. "I'm proud of you both. You took a mistake and turned it into a miracle." "It wasn't a mistake, Mama," Elena said softly. "It was God's plan all along. We just didn't know it yet." Marcus looked at Lily across the room, laughing with other children, her dress grass-stained and her hair ribbons askew, completely perfect in her joy. She caught his eye and waved enthusiastically, and Marcus waved back. That little girl had sent an accidental text to a stranger. And in doing so, she'd reminded a lost man that the most valuable things in life, love, family, connection, purpose, couldn't be earned or bought or negotiated. They had to be opened up to, accepted, embraced. Marcus Ashford had everything he'd ever worked for. But only now did he have everything he actually needed. The rest, as they say, was just the beginning. Sometimes the biggest miracles come in the smallest packages. Sometimes a wrong number is exactly the right number. And sometimes the people who change our lives forever are the ones we never saw coming. This is the story of how one little girl's accident became everyone's blessing, how an act of desperation became an act of grace, and how a billionaire who had everything learned what it meant to truly be rich. Because in the end, we're not measured by what we have, but by whom we love and who loves us in return.